Adaba Radio.
A very good morning to you, and thank you for listening to Flow FM 92.7, your go with the Flow radio station. It's Thursday, the 15th of May, 2025, and welcome to the headline news analysis. It is the other part of the 7 o'clock headline news that we'll bring to you, and of course, at 8 o'clock, you have a chance to join and pass comment on some of the stories we brought to you at 7. To do that, all you need to do is give us a call live into the studio, or you can write us a message on WhatsApp, or just leave us a message on WhatsApp to the number 0807 777 9927 0807 777 9927. A lot of interesting stories to touch on this morning. We're joined by Nicholas Uwerunonye. First, who analyzes the story, and then we give you a chance to pass comment on some of the analysis as to share your thoughts and views as to the discussion this morning. Again, Nicholas, it's good to have you. Good morning to you, Nicholas.
Good morning.
How are you this morning?
I'm fine, thank you.
You joined virtually yesterday. Hope all is well.
Well, it is one of those things.
We're glad you're here with us physically today.
Well, thank you.
All right. The views to be expressed is not in any way the position of Flow FM or the staff therein, but are solely expressed by the analyst Nicholas this morning. I'm Danielle Shitta-Bey.
And I am Adeyemi.
Before we get into any of the stories, this is to remind you that we're streaming live on YouTube and on Facebook this morning at Flow FM 927, so you can get on any of these apps and get in on the live action happening in the studio right now. And a couple of the stories we have today are updates from what we've talked about extensively. And picking this one up is from JAMB. Is on every Nigerian's lips. Everybody was talking about JAMB, and then we have an update as JAMB takes responsibility for the mass Adeyemi failure and is ordering a retake. They've accepted responsibility for the failure, and this was spoken by an emotional Professor Ishaq, as the report says. He broke down in tears at a press conference on Wednesday, announcing that 379,999 candidates will retake the exam.
Well, first and foremost, you see, he did something very unusual, that is taking responsibility. But, he spoke to the fact that, he showed enough remorse, on while giving that press conference. And really, I have been looking at a lot of comments from there since, in fact, it kept me awake throughout the night. I was looking at X and looking at various social media platforms, and most of the arguments that I saw have their merits, really. I think in fact there was one particular one that I kind of it got me into a very somber and pensive mood, and which is the extent to which how needless cockiness can undo a CEO, somebody that has been put in charge of an agency like JAMB, because you see, if you recall, I believe that Oloide shouldn't be the only person to take full responsibility for this. I think the Minister of Education has a lot of explaining to do, because you see, that agency is directly under his purview. And when there were outcry, what I expect him to do is to say that government is looking into it, not to pathologize Nigerian, youthful candidates who wrote exam and was expecting some result and got something else entirely. That even led to to one of them committing suicide in Lagos. It's a very, very sad development. I expected a professor, was it where he's called? He's doctor, right? Alausa.
Dr.
Tunji Alausa. I expected somebody that went through school, and bagged a PhD to be more circumspect, in when things like that are brought to his attention. I think rather than Oluide, showing that kind of emotion, it should be Alausa himself, because he's the biggest failure in this matter. At least Oluide has several years, under his belt, which he has performed creditably well. You understand? Of course, sometimes, when you have a lot of successes, hubris can set him. And that is what happened in this instance. But that having been said, yes, we accept that he has made some apologies and he has shown remorse. But, it's the technical details that really got to me.
Okay.
Because having said all, it is still a human error, which we have argued conclusively. If you recall, I did say that the little I did in the university, that has to do with testing. The rule is that if you have a massive failure, the problem is either the lecturer or the testing method. I was very clear. This is what you do at the undergraduate level. You understand? I was very clear about that. And of course, we had those arguments about people not being able to defend certificates and things like that. I said that is immaterial. It has always been like that. Since I've been writing exams, since I've known the school system in Nigeria. And I'm pretty sure that is what happens globally. You have instances where exams are compromised. It doesn't mean you have to tar-brush virtually the entire system, entire candidates who go to write exam because of some few bad eggs. So, the thing is that I sincerely hope lessons will be learned. And now you see, there is an aspect of the argument now that is even frightening, which was needless in the first place. If you look at the structure of where most affected, you see that it's one section of the country that has always been crying marginalization. Now, it is even so difficult to even convince them that the thing was not deliberate. Because I was looking at people who were on the fringes before, who have been arguing that, look, this is all Nigerian, and things like that. They have been detribalized in all their views. But now they are asking for explanation because they are saying that unless you explain properly, then it's very clear that the marginalization is institutionalized. You can imagine ASU, a UNN, threatening to sue JAMB. UNN, Enugu. You understand? They are threatening to sue JAMB because they believe that the thing was deliberate. You say, how do you go from there? And it was essentially because, I think all this anger, all this cry of marginalization came because of the doubling down of JAMB. In the first instance, when the allegations were made, we went ahead to pathologize the candidates, that they were overconfident and they were cheating. That it's because most of those people that were passing were cheating. So you created an algorithm that checked the cheating. That is why you have that massive failure. How do you explain that? It's pathetic, really. And very sad.
The chief executive officer of Educare, that's Alex Onya, revealed this on Sunday that some legal proceedings will commence at the Federal High Court this week against JAM, and then it says over 8,391 students have sent in complaints, and there's evidence to prove that JAM system was inefficient, thereby causing harm to these students' mental health. Now, with all of this, JAM coming up to accept responsibility, is there a need to go ahead with the legal proceedings? That's one. On the other side, how about some other student? Now, JAM is given about 370. What's the figure?
379,000.
379,000. That's a huge one. That's a huge one. Now, accepting responsibility, did JAM thoroughly explain what happened? That this is just okay, we accept responsibility. Again, moving forward, for a couple of months now, we're going to be writing another one. So how do they learn from this particular mistake and move on?
First of all, the decision to take the matter to court, I think you cannot beat a child and expect it not to cry, especially when you have administered that discipline wrongly. There is a need for redress. You understand? Yes, we can only appeal to them. We can only appeal to them. And just whipping over the television and the rest of them is not enough demonstration of remorse. There must be some physical way of assuaging the pain. You understand? That I leave for JAM to decide on its own. Then secondly, the number of this is just outrageous. That is, they're coming from one, majorly from one section of the country. You understand? It's outrageous, really. It's unpardonable. I don't know how they want to go about it, because, we are talking of people who have been demoralized. I did say that there are environmental factors that affect how you perform. You understand? There are environmental factors that affect how you perform. You understand? I haven't told them that they failed. Look at the emotional turmoil they went through. Having to sit down and prepare within a short period of time to come and sit for the exam. I don't know what that is going to amount to. You understand? And on the matter of which was the issue again? Yeah,
and that's the number of students who will be retaking the examination.
In fact, as a matter of fact,
did JAM learn? And then moving on, how do they improve on this not happening again?
Well, you see,
what do they need to do? What do you suggest to do?
Look, you see, the thing is this. Look, we need not throw away the baby with the bathwater. You understand? Kudos must be given to JAM for reinvigorating the process of exam integrity. With IT backup and the rest of them. The proper way to go about it is those so-called glitches. Yeah, I would want a more thorough investigation. It is established that it's a human factor. You understand? Because it's not enough to just say it's human factor. Why did it affect that particular section? Because they were supposed to put a kind of filter or something like that. Because it's in sections, the Kaduna zone. So why was that aspect that was responsible for this particular access, that is politically volatile? You understand? You say in intelligence community, they will say there is no coincidence, especially when you have certain strange patterns that has been happening. You understand? I recall last year when the issue of this young lady who forged her JAM certificate from the Southeast happened. It became a national frenzy. I recall that some of my colleagues, we had an issue. And they came at me and said, no, why are you talking like this, blah, 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 and things like that. I was saying no. I said, you need to be on their side of Nigeria to understand what it means. Then especially particularly within the 2023 and, the use of, the educational, the development in that area has been used as a plank for, political argument. That is why you have some people saying they are marginalized, they are not marginalized, they are cheating there, that's why they are passing and things like that. So those are the things you put in context. You understand? And I recall that it was a heated argument between me and some of my colleagues. But now, when this has happened now, where does it put JAM? Where does it put those people who wanted to argue that, look, this is not about anything? Where does it put them? So it's a thorough embarrassment, really. And it was avoidable. Let us just admit that it's avoidable.
All right, let's turn to you. Let's pick this call. Hello, good morning.
Hello.
Good morning to you. What's your name and where are you calling from?
I'm the best calling from Basin.
Could you please speak a bit louder?
Okay. I think I'm the best calling from Basin.
Okay.
Blessed calling from Basin.
Yes.
All right, please go ahead. Go ahead with your comment.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to speak concerning the chance of I think the only solution, I don't see 50% solution, that is, they should just increase the timing. I think the time enjoyed by the natural time is around 110 minutes, thereabouts, for 180 questions. It's impossible now. For it to answer 180 questions in 110 minutes is impossible. For those writing pieces, you have to solve for one question or more than 30 seconds or more than for one question. I need to for them. Most students are unable to finish up those questions. So that is one thing. They need to increase that time maybe from 110 to 200 minutes thereabouts, or maybe 3 hours thereabouts. So that's my contribution.
All right, thank you a lot for that. Well, I guess it was talking about, still the difficulty some of these students, experience or went through while writing the exam, probably because of time.
Yeah.
And again, there's been a section of the people that blamed, government. And, of course, we have one of them to be the former presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, who said it's a reflection of the abandonment of or less attention paid to education over the years. We have other section blaming parents and students to hold them responsible. In all of this, how do you, do you share the sentiment to blame parents and students? How do we blame parents and students? And
how do you blame parents in this instance? They paid for the JAM, they prepared their kids, You started by, posting it outrageously across the country in a situation where you have insecurity and the rest of them. At the end of the day, you are the one who brought a system that wasn't working. How do you blame the parents?
All right, let's take another call,
Nicholas.
All right, please try and connect back if you can. 0807 777 9927.
And again, have you read JAM's statement on their handle? Man proposes, God disposes. It is colossally insensitive. Mm-hmm. How do you sound philosophical in this instance?
All right, Nicholas, hold your thought a little bit. Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning to you. What's your name and where are you coming from?
I'm fine, thank you. My name is Tony. I'm calling from Dawo.
Right, it's good to have you. Thank you, Tori. Please go ahead.
You see, I'm happy we had a discussion on this prior to now, and thank God that the JAM registrar himself has come out to admit to the fact that there were errors, and which he is accountable for, and he blamed himself and he held himself responsible for the whole thing that happened. Well, fine, it's a good thing, but actually I'm happy that he's doing it for the first time. With all due respect to the registrar himself, he has always lived in the illusions that he is always right. I'm sorry to say this, and that is why he failed to attain this long before now. You see, when people complain, we don't have to politicize everything. When people complain, you have to look at what they are saying. You get it? But most times, he's always on the defensive. With this here and this carriage of, no, I know what I'm doing. Of course, he knows what he's doing. But that doesn't mean he's not fallible. But now that, Adeyemi, he has listened and he has taken time to look into every little complaint, who have the magnitude of error we have now. And unfortunately, we should by now let JAM know that JAM is not a revenue generating institution. It's an examination regulating body. And the moment that we start praising and say, no, do you know how much he has emitted? We are losing it. JAM is not supposed, it is not its mandate to generate revenue. The core mandate of JAM is to regulate entrance examination into the universities and the colleges of education and polytechnics. They should face their mandate and make sure they do the right thing. May God guide Professor Loyode, right? Everybody that is thinking it's all politics have a second thought and have the knowledge to see that, look, if he gets this right, it doesn't affect just the PDP or the APC. If he gets this right, it doesn't affect just the Yorubas or the Igbos.
Oh, thank you, Toy from Taiwo, for your contribution. And what's up? Good morning. This is Derek from Tanker for JAM. I feel we should commend them for coming out clean. We haven't had such integrity in a while. And also, we shouldn't bring too much heat on them. Let the students retake the exams and let's move away from the past. Hi, my name is Adedayo from Tipper Garage. And I feel like parents are not responsible for the whole JAM situation, because they won't help their kids to write the examination, and whatever the kids face in the exam hall sometimes cannot be explained. I wrote JAM at 2022 and some system in the center went off for an hour and some of our colleagues were still writing their exams, and eventually when the system went on, the time elapsed and I couldn't finish. Well, and this is just one of the numerous, testimonies or accounts that we have.
I strongly align with what Tony said. This I know it all attitude has always been I knew it was going to cost Oloyede gravely, and for sake of crying out loud, there has always been errors in JAM. In fact, I recall when I sat for my own JAM, myself and one of my best friends, we did it together. I got my result. He got a far higher result than me. On the day of registration at the University Faculty of Arts mini campus, that was the day they called him to the faculty office and said there's something regular about his JAM score. And this was a guy that was even far better than me. The guy lost his admission that year, had to retake and come back. You understand? So we've always had that kind of...
Sorry to bother you, Nicholas. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
What's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Chito from Songo.
All right, Shitta, please go ahead with your comment.
Yeah, my comment this morning is that kudos to Oloyede for coming out and taking the responsibility. We spoke about it on this same channel some time ago. But it's not only that, because coming out publicly, taking responsibility, the reason why everybody is just saying kudos to him is that you really see Nigeria that taking responsibility. Even as old as I am, this first time I will see that in this country. So the politicians and leaders should also learn from this. But far from this, because in some other countries like all this West, even we must have resigned his appointments, many directors, even Minister for Education, must have resigned. Because this issue is bigger than how we are looking at it. Because if you look at it, this error is avoidable. And more so, this is going to affect the image of the JAM for a longer period. So they should sit down, not only what happened now, they should go back to the drawing board and listen to the comments of people before now. So that once and for all, they address every issue that people have been talking about. Thank you. That is my comment this morning.
Thank you, Shitta.
To add to what Shitta has said, I think one of the comments a lot of people have been making is the fact that for a computer-based test, you should be able to get your results just immediately after you're done writing it. In an advanced world, that's what happens.
Exactly.
You write a computer-based test as you're marking, as you confirm your answer, they already know what your scores are, and at the end of the exam, you're supposed to be able to get your aggregate score immediately.
Honestly, I buy that idea too. In fact, that is even more of transparency. If this is all about algorithms and if it's all that is, if the whole thing is just about writing algorithms, I have a couple of AI on my phone. If I input certain things, under few seconds you get your answer. So why can't we have that kind of a thing and have your result almost immediately? So it saves you all this problem,
Well, let's hope they review some of these things, and then the students that are expected to write are able to write and without any glitches this time. Let's move to another story. This one is also an update on a particular story we've talked about before, and this concerns Professor Pat Utomi. The DSS has sued Pat Utomi over shadow government, and then they've taken him to court over an alleged attempt to stop President Bola Tinubu's executive powers by setting up a shadow government. In a suit filed at the Federal High Court in Abuja, the DSS described Utomi's actions as a threat to national security and a violation of the Constitution.
I have said it countless number of times on this platform that the Nigerian security architecture is geared towards regime protection. Everything is about protecting that person that is in power. That is it. So sometimes you can have very ludicrous claims, like you have here. For me, it's ludicrous. Because even if you have to go by precedent, just February in Kano State, APC, that is in the opposition, set up a shadow government to monitor NNPP government in Kano.
That's the Kabir's administration.
Kabir's administration. You understand? Did you see DSS in the state take the party to court? So sometimes you see, as much as I respect the DSS, because for me, if you ask me, it's one of the most effective, secret police you have in West Africa. You understand? In terms of its reach, in terms of the kind of intervention, and they've been able to manage that image. The awesome power they have, they've been able to mask it in such a way that you don't feel they don't feel them breathing down your neck, but they know exactly what is happening everywhere. So it's quite commendable. But you see, this kind, it's I don't know. It's going to bring the Nigerian DSS works more in the shadow. I think it's going to be counterproductive because it's going to bring needless focus on the activities if they intend to pursue that line. This is purely political. You understand? And again, the intention of that shadow government has been made very clear. You understand that we must at least go beyond this level of mundane way of doing things, because already the federal government is under pressure, is under attack of being too authoritarian. You understand? They shouldn't be reinforcing that kind of impression,
All right, 0807 777 0807 777 9927. All right, just before we conclude this morning, let's just take a comment. We were having this conversation yesterday where, former governor of Jigawa State, Sule Lamido, did say that, the late MKO Abiola should be, paid what's owed and be compensated, for being denied, the June 12th, presidential election, adjudged to be one of the fairest or the fairest election ever conducted in Nigeria, and that will put to rest all of the agitations about the June 12th, and that it shouldn't be denied that twice, in death and of course of the presidency, and of course some money owed and contract executed, for the federal government then.
Okay.
We had that, and now an update to that. Former governor of Rivers State, Rotimi Amechi, is saying that Nigeria's political landscape would be far more confrontational if his generation of governors were still in office.
I absolutely agree with him on that. Because what you have are just crybabies as governors that we have all around here. You understand? You can imagine that one that we were even talking about, the manner in which he was removed. He's saying that his spirit has left the place. That is the quality of governors you have. You have governors who, they get into office, look at the quality of people they even surround themselves with. People that can't look at them in the face and tell them the right thing. Just yes men. You understand? So look, I can go on and on, it might just offend some people, but that's a simple fact. You are talking of governors in the mood of Saraki. He might have his minuses. The governors in the mode of even the same Rotimi Amechi. Rotimi Amechi that took on the federal government. For the first time moved from as the governors forum chairman, held the federal government accountable. You have people like Sule Lamido. The Sule Lamido that when he was employed as a minister, when he was appointed as a minister, then the Obasanjo had them all sign a post-dated resignation letter. If they don't perform, they will just put their name and then they go. You understand? Sule Lamido told the president, President Obasanjo, that he's not going to sign it. That if I fail, I will resign. And Obasanjo accepted it. That's the quality of governors we had in those days. So many of them. Of course, we have one that is, currently, one of the leading opposition in the country, Peter Obi. That is the quality of governors we have. Who do you compare? How do you compare? Even the current president himself had no godfather. You understand? But the one we have there right now, it's. I absolutely agree with
decorum come with democracy and all of these things. If you look at during that area, we saw a lot of political tensions, confrontations, conflict here and there. But again, if you look at
democracy is about organized chaos. A very creative, organized chaos. That is what democracy is. Yes, it might appear there is concatenation of arguments and things. From there, you find order, somewhat. All
right, let's take this call real quick before we go.
Hello, good morning. Good morning. What's your name and where are you calling from? Please, you have a few seconds to make your comment. Please go ahead.
Yes. What Amechi was saying now. If you not what happened, there was one that removed the order of peace. They orchestrated the time that removed the order of peace in the back of peace. That is the matter. So what did he say? All
right. Thank you a lot for your comment. Well, because of time, we will definitely just go into it and of course look at what former Governor Rotimi Amechi is really talking about, and of course in the context in which he's speaking from. Thank you, Nicholas, for your contributions this morning, and then for your take on some of these national trending issues. Thank you for the calls as well too. My name is Dayo Adeyemi. The program the views expressed is not in any way the position of Flow FM 92.7.
And I'm Danielle Shitta-Bey. Thank you for joining us.
Mommy, you want to watch you?